An important analyst and economist in the United States is saying that the United States should be very concerned about Chinese electric cars spying on American citizens, on the American government, and potentially finding out some kind of state secrets. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. This is an interesting story. But first, thank you to our Patreon supporters. Really appreciate your support. If you'd like to become a Patreon, I'll put a link in the description below. An economist is saying that cheap Chinese EVs must be kept out of the United States automotive market because of a serious security risk, which is kind of a similar situation to Tesla, what Tesla faced in China. Now, Tesla, to be fair, I mean, if the equivalent was true, then, it'd be like BYD building a car factory in the US. They do have a battery and truck factory, but not a car factory. And then selling cars and then being told you can't drive those cars in specific locations like state compounds, airports, etc. So, yeah, I mean, China has done it, but they don't ban Chinese EVs. And that's what these analysts are saying the US should do. Ban Chinese EVs altogether, which is a lot more extreme because, Tesla sells thousands of EVs every month in China. I think we should try and keep them out, said Heritage Foundation economist Diana Roth. Now, this is a story that was on Fox News. So, I'm sure there's some legitimate stories on Fox News and there's a lot of others that are just complete crap. This might be one of them, possibly. But it is true that Joe Biden, before he became the president of America, he was very vocal in his criticism of BYD. He believed they were a big threat and that America should basically stop BYD from selling vehicles in the US. He was even referring to their current manufacturing facility in the US to make buses and trucks. He doesn't like them at all. I don't know, he hasn't said much since then before he became the president, but he was in fact, he was more anti-BYD than anyone else outside of China. I reported on that a few times. Probably no one knows about that because when I did that, the channel was quite small. A similar narrative was spread through China starting a few years ago, says Teslarati. Tesla vehicles were looked at as a potential spy device for the US government. Government employees were discouraged from owning them, but they weren't banned. That said, you couldn't drive them in certain places. She said that the outrage was caused by the Chinese spy balloons last year would be minimal compared to what the cheap Chinese EVs would cause. So there'd be outrage over these Chinese EVs spying on, I don't know, what they're going to spy on. Your backyard, maybe, your garage. Anyway, she believes, though, there's other serious security concerns. Car manufacturers now can disable cars from remote, she said. What if we were in some foreign entanglement with China and then China decided to stop all the EVs in the United States? They could just stop them and they'd all be bricked. It's a security risk, she said. Well, there's a lot more American-made vehicles in China. In fact, there's millions of them. So America could do the same thing, couldn't they? Well, maybe not. Maybe America's non-Tesla vehicles being sold in China are not quite as smart. That's possible. Elon Musk has complimented Chinese automakers that have made EVs. He believes that they're pretty advanced and they're doing a really good job. He's also complimented Chinese work ethic. He says they work harder than Americans. He hasn't come out and said it in those words, but he's alluded to that fact. And he's probably right. When I lived in Taiwan, which is not exactly China, but China thinks it's China, people did work really hard, but a lot of it wasn't really working, to be fair. Honestly, it wasn't. It was all about saving face. You just couldn't leave the office until the boss had gone home. And if the boss was there till 8, you got to stay till 8:01, even if you just sat there doing nothing. That's quite common. It's quite common in Japan as well. Anyway, several car companies have said that they will scale back EV development, like General Motors and Ford. But at the same time, Hyundai is saying they're going to accelerate it. Volvo are going to accelerate it. We've got some car makers saying that's a mistake. The Biden administration has pushed hard to encourage EV sales and EV production in America, where electric cars are more popular now than they've ever been before. Last year, nearly 8% of all vehicles sold were fully electric in the United States. But in places like California, that figure is well over 20%. If you look at the car market, in America over the past 50 years, it generally has, well, not generally, it's always followed California. California sets the trend. A lot of people think it's weird. And eventually they just get their heads around it and they follow California. So will EVs become the main vehicle, whether or not China plays a part in the US car market? Absolutely, they will. It's simply a matter of time. One thing to keep in mind, though, is we've got companies like Ford and Tesla who say that they're going to manufacture CATL's lithium iron phosphate batteries in the US. Now, China or CATL own the patent. They own the machinery. Ford and Tesla will basically lease that machinery. This is one way, I guess, China is able to enter the US car market without the Biden administration being able to really do anything about it. That said, politicians, especially Republicans, are not happy about this. They're, in fact, furious. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.